I call this regular meeting of Ledyard Town Council Finance meeting to order. Present are myself, Councilor Ingalls, Councilor Malone, members of the committee, as well as Linda Davis and Mary McGrattan, both town councilors, along with Mr. Charles Doozy, Ms. Colleen Lauer, Liz Burdick, Director of Planning, Mayor Allen, Hillary Evans, Chief Rich, Marcia Hancock, Finance Director, Scott Johnson, Parks and Rec Director, and Steve Juskowitz, Chair of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee. Have I missed anyone? Hearing none, I'll ask if there are citizen comments. And if anyone is trying to speak and they're muted, you need to unmute. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to regular meeting minutes. Hearing no one still, we got a large audience tonight, so surprised. I would accept a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the regular meeting minute of March 3rd and 3 budget work sessions.
So moved.
Second by Council Malone.
Thank you. You guys are quick. Give me a second. And I'll move on to Marcia Hancock if you'd like to make comments while I'm doing this.
Wait, you need to vote, Bill.
So we do. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none. They were long. They were excellent. Well done, Roxanne. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Councilor Ingalls.
Council Malone votes aye.
And so does Councilor Solms. The motion passes. Thank you very much. And now I'll ask for Marcia to speak.
Good evening. I have just sent you the budget reports for February. As of February, I'm sorry those didn't come sooner. I started sending them about 3 times today and got interrupted and then forgot about them. So as it says in the email that I sent, the revenue report does not include January and February tax receipts. There's been a glitch between the tax software and passing that information along to Munis. So once that is cleared up, I'll resend the revenue reports with the updated numbers. I think we have a few items on the agenda tonight that I'll speak to then, and that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have to comment about the mayor's background. I can't help it, but it looks like he's at a brewery tonight.
Woohoo!
Oh, that was my nephew when he went to Dublin last year.
Nice. Nice. We're all there with you, Fred.
Beautiful.
Okay, so first item of old business is to discuss the Ledyard Housing Authority's pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, and a possible reduction. And we have Mr. Doozy and Ms. Lauer present. If either of you would like to speak, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, I can't. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, hear you.
Oh, okay. I was trying to unmute myself. At our last meeting, unfortunately, I was not present, but our board approved the proposal that the pilot for us be reduced to 7% and 3% go into our STIF account. So unless Colleen has something else to add, or also Hillary, she's on the board. And I've looked over the Appendix A draft that was sent to me. And quite frankly, we're fine with it. And so whenever you tell me to meet the mayor and Linda and sign my part, I will be glad to do so.
Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, Mr. Doozy. We have previously discussed a number of options. We think we like the one the most, where we put money, set money aside into a STIF account for future renovations. So originally, right now, the pilot is 10% of rental revenue, and we're proposing to lower it to 7%. and take 3%, the reduction, and put that in the STIF account. And just a reminder, it's really a three-party agreement, if I recall correctly. The town, I think it's the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority and the Ledyard Housing Authority. Those three groups need to all agree if we're going to do this. And I welcome any corrections before we hear a motion.
Hey, this is Colleen.
Hi, Colleen.
Hi. On the agreement, it just has the town council, town of Ledyard, and the housing authority. So I don't think Chaffa has to do anything with it.
Roxanne, I remember an email. If I recall correctly, Chaffa weighed in and said it's an agreement that has to be signed by the three parties. Do you recall the third party, Roxanne?
I do not, but maybe the mayor could just double check that. We could always add them to the approval signatures.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a recommendation to town council. We've got a little time to get that checked and corrected.
Hey, Bill, this is
Yes,
Tom. I recall the same thing you do. I remember talking about this, and I don't remember what state authority or housing authority it was, but there was a state entity that had to at least give a tacit approval of it.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's what my recollection was, not that they had to sign off on it, but that this arrangement would be okay with them. It didn't seize up the works in any other way.
Okay.
So my understanding was not that we needed Chaffa's signature on this.
Okay. Let's move the motion as written. And then if we need to correct it, we can do that before the council meeting next week.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
So we want to be proactive. So we are actually already putting money into the STIF account monthly. So I just wanted to double check. Are you okay with it going in monthly, or do you really want that true 7-10-7-3 split at the pilot payment time? Because I can definitely show that it's going in monthly.
Yeah. Marcia, is the pilot paid once a year or twice a year? Once?
Once.
Okay. So Marcia, what would your thoughts be? We'd have to do some kind of true up because they're putting money aside now. And we're going to put money into this, or we're going to pay. Are we going to reimburse them? How would that work?
So who is transferring the money to the STIF account? The town?
No, I am.
Okay, so can you do that monthly?
Yep.
And then just pay the town once a year?
If that's okay, that's exactly what we'd love to do.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? I will call for a motion.
I make a motion to adopt the proposal.
Go ahead.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt the proposed amendments to ordinance number 100-010 and ordinance establishing a housing authority for the town of Ledyard as contained in the draft dated October 21, 2020. In addition, adopt a proposed Appendix A agreement between the town of Ledyard and the Ledyard Housing Authority regarding payment in lieu of taxes as contained in the draft dated November 4, 2020.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Thank you both. Is there any further discussion? I would just like to comment that we, and this is not the first time we've said that, so I'm going to say it again. We really appreciate the Ledyard Housing Authority and all the progress you guys have made and your partnership and cooperation on this. So we're excited to do this. That said,
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
As does Councilor Solms, and the motion passes. This will go to Town Council, I believe, next week. Thank you very much, everyone.
No, so admin, this will go to admin.
Oh, it goes to
first,
admin, of course. Yeah.
And involves amendment to the ordinance. We will have a public hearing on the ordinance portion.
Correct.
Soon. So we have time to just double check those questions.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other old? Oh, and so Ledyard Housing Authority folks, you're welcome to stay. You don't have to. I think tonight may be at least an hour, if not longer. So you're welcome to stay. And thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Is there any other old business? Hearing no old business, is there a motion to change the agenda under new business? Hearing none, we have a discussion regarding Ledyard High School multi-use field and track, and specifically with regard to the new scoreboard and the replacement of the Gallup Hill Road fence. And we have with us Mr. Juskowitz, and I would ask him to comment first. For those who weren't present, we heard a presentation from the PMBC at the council meeting last Wednesday, and these two items have been brought to finance for their recommendations and possible movement to the council.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, thank you.
All right, hey, no problem. Attached to the agenda, it appears that people have access to the brief that I gave to the town council. So just to focus on the high school field, the track and field, we were allocated $2,539,250 by the town council to do that project. There was some contingency money that was in there. We were very, very lucky during the project that we did not run into many problems. As most of you know, whenever you're doing a project in Ledyard that involves digging, you never know what you're going to find. It could be rock, it could be just about anything with the length of time that people have occupied the town since the industrial age, you never know. But luckily, we were able to complete that project with $104,102 remaining in the account that was given to us. There were several parts of the project that were what we call an ad alternate. They were put into the bid where the contractor, in this case, H.I. Stone, could have done the work if we awarded it, and they gave us a bid for it as part of the contract. But at the time, prior to being authorized to proceed with this, the town council was not interested in those alternates because I think Councilor Dombrowski made a comment that, hey, you got to do it within this money because you're not getting any more money. So we were able to do that. There's still $104,102 in the account, but there are two items that we feel that there is there's significant need for. And although some members of the PMBC thought that the authorization was already given to us where we could do this work because it was part of the original concept and scope. Considering it was COVID, we didn't know what was going on with the budget and a bunch of other things. I addressed this with the chairman of town council, Chairman Davis, and she indicated, hey, bring that to us at the town council and we'll listen to what you have to say. That was referred at our last meeting to this finance committee meeting. So essentially, we did receive bids for two things that we did not include in the project, again, because we didn't know if we were going to be able to afford it. The first is to replace the existing high school field, which is a scoreboard, which is a football scoreboard. Today when they build scoreboards, they're multi-sport. The technology allows them to be a little bit nicer. So you don't have fixed things like downs and quarters. You have the ability to use different play periods depending on the sport. So the first item of the two is to put a new scoreboard in. The power and everything is already run there. These tend to be wireless type scoreboards that they control from the booth. But that scoreboard is in the range of between about $40,000 and $50,000 to replace it. There's only a few companies that do scoreboards within the state. I believe they're all state contractors. What we're looking to do there is to replace that scoreboard with a multi-use scoreboard that would then support soccer, lacrosse, and other sports there as well. And to some degree, the track events is, with timing and things. The second item that's involved here is to replace the fencing that is along Gallup Hill Road. that kind of wraps around as Gallup Hill turns with, Spicer Hill to the left there. But when you make that turn, that fence is a chain link fence. It's very, very rusty. The gates are in disrepair. It's an eyesore, and it really detracts from the appearance of the high school. So we still have to look at the bids and the quotes on that. We had some quotes, but they're stale now because they're many, many months old. And we had the original bids that were put in the contract, but understand that due to COVID, the price of steel and other things has gone up quite a bit. So what we're trying to do is we're going to get additional bids on this. And what we're looking for finance is authorization to replace the, and Roxanne, if you have that up, that's great. Thank you. If you could go to the slide, back up to, I think one more up right there. What we'd like to do is to be able to do these enhancements to the project within the funds that were given to us. So we'll go out and continue to solicit bids the way our charter allows us to do. And we would execute the project in accordance with the town purchasing ordinance to stay within our $104,102 to replace the scoreboard and as much fence as we possibly can. We think we could save a little bit of money by having Parks and Rec and the Board of Ed, Public Works, help get rid of the old fencing. In other words, we don't have to pay a fee to have it taken away. We can do that within the town, save a little money, and get as much of that fencing replaced as we can and gates to stay within the 104,102. So at this point here, what I'm looking for, and whether it needs to go on to the full town council, is to essentially expand the scope of the project to include these two add alternate items, the scoreboard and the fencing, within the allocated money that we have. So we'll continue to get some bids, we'll process those bids, and we would select the lowest qualified bidder. One item on the scoreboard I just want to point out is that one of the bids included the relocation of that scoreboard to another field that Parks and Rec would like to use that within the town. So we're going to get to reuse that scoreboard. So it's a double win for the town. So I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Jeskowitz. Questions from the council members?
Hey, Steve, this is Tom Malone. A question about the scoreboard. So does the bid price that you've collected, does that include any structural support replacement that may be necessary? The mounting system, because I know that the board alone is quite, like you said, it's quite more technically elaborate. I don't know if there's a weight difference, or even if there isn't, what kind of shape do we know that the mounting is on, the footing?
I don't have the specifics on. I have to go back and take a look at the quote, but I do know that the quotes that we're going to be getting, what we've asked them to do is to replace. So if they have to pour, small amounts of concrete at the bottom of the post or whatever, that would be included in the quotes, and I'll verify that. The relocation of a scoreboard may require a little bit more, looking at where we're going to actually put that at that field. I just want to point out one other thing while this picture is up on the screen. The L at the top with the saber going through that is not included in the price that we did on that scoreboard. However, right below that, where you see next home game, October 19th versus Killingly, that's kind of like a mini, I hate to use the word Jumbotron because it's not that big. That's kind of like a mini Jumbotron. That's a screen there that we can put different pictures and things up on. And then if you look at the rest of that scoreboard, you'll see like where it says quarter with 4 there, that QTR is inside an addressable field. So that if it's not quarters, if it's halves or whatever the sport indicates, we can change that to signify whatever it is. So same thing with down and things like that. Those are all programmable features that makes this truly a multi-sport scoreboard.
Thank you. Other questions? Councilor comments?
Bill, I have a question. So Steve, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Okay. So Steve, if the surplus were not to be spent on these couple of ad alternates, what would you do with it?
Well, we wouldn't do anything with it because we actually don't have any money. We spend town money that's put into a bucket. That would be between the finance director, and I would ask her to comment on that. But like any other project where you allocate funds, if it's not all used, I believe that there would be a town council action to move those funds from one account to another.
Thank you.
In fact, if the finance director is still on the call, she may be able to answer that if Ms. Hancock is online.
I am on the line, and I would take a recommendation to the finance committee to have those funds put right over into fund balance, general fund balance, since that's where the money originated. And then it would be up to the finance committee and the town council whether they would accept that recommendation.
Thank you.
If I can add one thing, and Marcia, let me know if I'm incorrect on this. We did bond part of this money. Is that correct?
We did not bond any of it.
Oh, we did not. Okay, never mind. Then there's no bond issue here. There's also no state money involved here as far as where we have to file anything back to the state. So it's not like we have to give any money back to the state or anything like that. The only difficult thing I see moving forward is getting enough different quotes because of a limited number of companies that do this type of work.
Okay, thank you. So I have several comments about this. First, a reminder that the original track and field project estimates were substantially lower than the final. So in one respect, we have a surplus from the final bid project, or project bids, but in another respect, we are already over, even if we don't spend this money. Secondly, I'm looking at the capital budget, and I don't see a request for either a scoreboard or fencing, and I could have skipped over it, but I don't see it in the capital plan. And we've been encouraging all town departments to put major expenses like this in their capital plan as a request. And thirdly, as I look at the capital requests for the Board of Education, we've got some huge expenses coming up. Largest one being a $2 million roof, and there's more than one roof to do. So these are both great projects. The fence looks terrible. It's been bothering me for 30 years. I'd love to replace it. I'd love to see a new scoreboard. But next comment, really a question, is what does it cost to maintain these new scoreboards? Our old one is fairly old, I think, but LED lighting and the sophistication that comes with this brings additional maintenance costs. So I think the total cost will be something more than what we'll spend to erect it. And I think that's, yeah, so there may be other alternatives with fencing. I've mentioned this once before. Chain link fence looks nice when it's new, it's all straight, but it very quickly gets kids climbing over it, bending it, distorting it. At some point it rusts. I like the idea of the black vinyl. If we're going to go forward with this, I think it would be a good idea to spend the extra money to get black vinyl, because black fences disappear and black vinyl doesn't appear to be rusting. The other thing you can do, I had one of these fences put in at my house 25 years ago. The fence installer recommended spray painting the fence post black, which I did and saved a ton of money over black vinyl coated fence posts. And that makes me wonder if we could also just paint the fence black and save ourselves a lot of money. It is probably not as complicated as it sounds. You can't just use a roller or a brush at a chain link fence, but you can spray it. And if you have a backing behind it, painting that fence, I think, would be a lot cheaper. I don't know, just a thought, I'm not gonna belabor it. But bottom line, we have major capital projects to look at for the Board of Ed. And I think we need to look at this $100,000 in the perspective of all the capital projects that we have, not just the fact that we have some money left over for these two. And those are my comments. Other comments, other questions?
Councilor Solms,
Yes.
if I could just make one comment on the initial projected cost for this project. Those dollar figures were provided completely outside of the PMBC. This project was presented to us after Those estimates were produced by another town body. And when the project did come to us, at that point, there was already not enough money from the time that it was first on any agenda for the committee. So I just want to point that out, number one. And number two, if you look, if Roxanne, you could change the slide to the slide of the picture of the fence. I think you'll notice that that fence, painting that fence, if you look at the way it's bent and oscillating, may not do what needs to be done based on this picture. No. And if anyway, it's one of those things where whatever decision is made to move forward with. I do want to make one comment on the scoreboard. We spent $2.3 million in construction to put in a beautiful field. And if you go back 2 slides, back to the picture of the night, I'm sorry, go back up to the first picture. One more up, keep going. You'll notice the red lines that are on the field, the orange lines that are on the field, and things that are for other sports than football, which now allows us to have the non-predominantly male sports, lacrosse and soccer, which are played, by both boys and girls. We don't have an adequate scoreboard for those sports. This helps bring a little bit of the boys and the girls sports to have the same quality scoreboard for what they're doing. So we spent a lot of money on this track and field. The amount of extra money for that scoreboard is small in that respect. I'll just put that out.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. That's a good point. I certainly didn't mean to denigrate the commission or committee. I do not dispute the need for a new fence, and yes, painting it black wouldn't make it look new. It's just cheaper, and if we aren't going to do these projects, then maybe that's something to consider. And I totally get it that a new scoreboard lets us do a lot more with a field that we just paid a lot more money for. Again, I just think that we need to look at these 2 projects from the perspective of the taxpayer and the capital needs of the Board of Ed. So tonight is a discussion. I think we all need to take some time to think about this and weigh it against other priorities and see if it still comes up on top.
We're standing by for direction.
All right, you guys did a beautiful job. The track looks wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, and I will accept a motion.
I make a motion to approve to expend $12,600 from account 210-90305-58915 CNR undesignated to replace the existing lighting in the George Dieter Room at the Ledyard Senior Center, Parks and Recreation Facility per state bid quote from Graybar.
Councilman Malone seconds.
Thank you. Is someone here to speak to this one? I assume that's you, Scott?
Actually, I'll cover it, Bill.
Okay.
So just to give a little background on this one, it was not something that was budgeted, something that is much needed. The senior center lighting dates back to the original building, specifically in the Dieter Room. And the challenge in that room is that the room sees a lot of use. And in particular now with the Parks and Rec in there too, the room sees use not just during the day, but in evenings too. And it makes it difficult for them to replace the lighting that's in there. So the thought process is that while the center is still closed and that window of time is closing rapidly, now is the time to get that lighting project done. It's going to save in electricity as well because these new lights are actually sensitive to the ambient lighting coming from the outside. So if it's a sunny day, the internal lights will dim to allow for the same level of lighting, and the wattage that is used is also reduced. So what we're thinking is we don't get a time where we have the Dieter Room in particular where it's empty, where they can work in there for several days uninterrupted and get this job done. And this new LED lighting will save on the electricity bill in there and also provide for a much better atmosphere. It does look very dated. They are high energy consumers as they are now. They're the the old T12 standard large tube fluorescent lights that run along there. So we're thinking it will be a huge benefit to both the senior center and to Parks and Rec and to anybody else that uses the facility.
Thank you, Mayor. Great explanation. We've spent money all over town. I should say invested money all over town to switch to LED street lights, schools, buildings. The most recent is WPCA facility, and it's the right thing to do, and in the long run, it saves the taxpayers money. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Comment, questions from councilors?
And there's the quote up on the screen right now. And though, as you will see, the quote was from February of last year. Sean Russick from Public Works did in fact verify with Graybar, and the quote is still valid. So the number is still good.
So it's under $15,000, we know. That's
yep.
awesome.
Yep, the state bid contract.
Yep, good. Thank you. Councilors, any questions?
I have none.
All in favor, please say aye.
Sorry, Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
And so does Councilor Psalms. And the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
I make a motion to authorize the mayor to submit an application for a SC-COG corridor study in the amount of up to $150,000 for Route 12 in Gales Ferry. In addition, appropriate up to $15,000, 10% local match from account number 210-90305-58915 CNR undesignated upon receipt of the grant approval notification.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Thank you. Mayor, are you going to present this, or Ms. Burton?
Liz is on, planning director's on, so she will jump in if she does have another meeting. So if time runs long, I will jump in after her.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody. For the record, Liz Burdick, Director of Land Use. So in late February and early this month on the 8th of March, the town of Ledyard received notification that the Connecticut DOT through the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Government is soliciting proposals for planning studies for corridor studies. And in 2008, the town did a Route 12 corridor study. And I listed in the description, they identified, various negative aspects of the corridors that, each property is accessed separately. There's no landscaping. The buildings are a wide variety of designs that don't complement the town's character, and so on and so forth. And the study was pretty short. It wasn't super detailed, and it made some recommendations, but that was back in 2008. And from my understanding, really nothing's been done to Gales Ferry since that time, and the mayor can correct me if I'm wrong. So the Ledyard EDC met on the 2nd of March, and they were very interested in submitting a proposal to receive that grant funding so that we could do a new Gales Ferry Route 12 corridor study. I think it's important because we need to establish goals and objectives, but reasonable ones. So it was my understanding, and I wasn't here in 2008, that the plan that was put forth at that time included like a boulevard style divider with landscaping down Route 12 that DOT was having nothing to do with. So basically the study and its recommendations were either outdated or they were just flat out, told by DOT, we're not going to do that. But I think with, if we do a reasonable study and get reasonable goals and feasible, like real life goals to fix up Route 12, some sidewalks, some some better vehicular and pedestrian access, we can then, with that study, apply for LOTSIP grants or any other grants that are available. And so I would request that the town council allow me to submit a proposal to the COG. So what happens is the COG, you know, puts the grant offering out to all of its towns, and then the executive committee and the COG members review them, and they pick the towns that will get the funding. Now we have to have an application submitted to them by May 21st. So they're, you know, we have a little time, but not that much in the big scheme of things. You know, you want to have this ready a little bit before the due date. So that's all I have. Mayor Allen, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just briefly, I would just add that the study that was done in 2008, and if you haven't seen it, we can share up a copy of it, but it was very light on details. There were a lot of pretty pictures in it, but it really lacked data. It lacked data sets that would be very helpful to understanding traffic patterns and things like that. The other piece of it, as you mentioned, was it included dividing Route 12. So it would be a tree lined with the trees running down the center of Route 12, and the state looked very poorly on that plan. So the idea was that we would get something that actually works, and before they finalize the plan, we have some input understanding that the state doesn't want anything to do with a divided highway along there, but to essentially give us an opportunity to seek steep grants, just like we did in Ledyard Center, with the understanding that the Gales Ferry, the downtown Gales Ferry district, if you will, is our second node of commercial activity in town. And we kind of want to try to duplicate what we have in Ledyard Center down in Gales Ferry as well, with the decorative street lighting and the sidewalks and maybe the stone walls, but definitely some smaller trees to line the road to really bring it into keeping with how it should look. So that was the idea.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any ways to be guaranteed that we won't get another study like the last one, which looks good but has nothing you can work with and is unlikely to be approved or accepted by the state?
Well, I can say that the minimum amount of studies they're looking for are $150,000 studies. So my guess is for $150,000, you're going to get something better than what we have now. I believe, and I could be wrong, but it was put together by perhaps a group of UConn students. At that time, there wasn't a lot of information in this study. It's 35 pages long, and as the mayor said, it consists of some maps and some pretty drawings, but you know, what I put in your description, if you go back and look at the action item, is basically all of the typewritten word that was in this document. So I think that, again, the minimum amount for the studies they're looking for is $150,000. So I'm thinking for that amount of money, and I think you have staff now that would oversee that study and make sure in the RFP that everything we're looking for, traffic studies, shared accesses, sidewalks, all of those things would be included in anyone's proposal to the town.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
I can't say why that was done before. And
yeah, no, I understand. It's just frustrating to see so many studies year after year. We had at least 3 of them in Ledyard Center before we finally got something done. And that study was actually done by college kids too, but it was more reasonable. So as long as we have some oversight this time around, $150,000 is a lot of money to spend on a study. It better be good. And $15,000 for the town is, I think, a good investment. So.
Agreed. And as the mayor said, that study will give us a basis for applying for steep grants, LOTSIP grants, and other grants that are out there. There's another transportation grant that's out there. So I think it's an important time for Ledyard to do this.
Councilors, questions?
Not a question, a comment. I agree that the 10% investment of the 150,000 is a good investment in the future. I've said this before. Part of the reason that Ledyard has been able to act so quickly on the STEEP grants is that we've done these studies. We've had the information, we've known what the long-term plan is. And so when money becomes available, we can tell our story pretty quickly about exactly how we'll use it and why and how it fits with our long-term goals for Ledyard. So I definitely think it's a worthwhile investment if, and I'm looking through the document you attached, Liz, if we're certain. Bill, you asked my question. The question I was going to ask was, well, how do we know we're not going to get the same kind of study? So as long as we know we're going to be able to get the information we want to get, I think this would be a good investment.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, can I also just note again, 150 is the minimum. And of course, you know, if we put out requests for proposals and they come in at 200 or 250, I think that it would, I would come back to the finance committee and give them, you know, request permission based on that higher number. The minimum amount of the study they're looking for is 15,000. Local roads requires a 20% match by the town, but because Route 12 is a state road, we only have a 10% match.
Good. I think it's good that our motion reflects up to 150,000. That kind of tips off the bidders that that's what we have to spend. I like that better than saying more, knowing that the minimum is 150.
Right, the minimum is 150. Okay. Would you, so we say up to 150, if for some reason the proposals come in higher, at that time I can come back to the finance committee and sort of lay out what each, you know, provider would be doing for that study?
Yeah, you could, but I think I just reaffirmed to the bidders that we've approved $150,000, not more. So
got it.
Yeah. So
I'd want to see it printed on gold if it was more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for $150,000, we should get a really nice, I mean, so think about it, for 105, we're having our LOTSIP grant prepared. That includes survey work and all sorts of design work. So I think 150,000 should get us a nice study.
Sure.
Or less.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Councilors. Oh, Tom, go ahead.
I don't have anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
Councilor Solms votes aye, and the motion passes. Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to leave the meeting because I have another one to get ready for. Okay.
Yep, thank you for
Take
coming.
care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay, next item, please.
I make a motion to authorize overspending the legal fees account number 101-101-5310 for legal expenses through June 30th, 2021. Funding to be transferred to the legal fee account number 101-101-01-5310 at year end.
Councilor Malone seconds.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Andrew. This is a projection that we are likely to overspend this account based on invoices we've received to date. So we're not saying what the dollar amount is. This is much like the way we authorize the Director of Public Works to overspend. So, and we also don't talk a lot about our legal fee account and what we use it for in public meetings, just to keep the amount of information about it available to the people we spend it with minimized. So are there comments or questions? Hearing none, are you guys ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor, please say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
And so does Councilor Solms. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Next item, please.
I make a motion to set a hybrid model video conference and in-person public hearing date to be held on April 26, 2021 at 7 p.m. regarding the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Thank you. So we have been waiting for the state to give us some direction on how town public hearings and meetings and votes will be held. We're still waiting, as far as I know, as of this morning, I think, right, Fred?
That is correct.
So we talked about how to move forward. We thought that we should schedule the meetings. We could always reschedule them later if we have to, or cancel them. And we do have some time before we post the agenda and the meetings, but we thought we should get this done sooner rather than later in case the governor and the state decide to change direction on us. Or tell us, yeah, go ahead and follow the normal route, and then we get caught because we're not following the normal schedule. I just forgot what else I was going to say. Oh, we decided to do hybrid and in person, and it's. I think people are used to the idea of doing hybrid meetings, so there's no harm in continuing that. But if all restrictions were lifted and every resident in town wanted to come to that meeting, that would at least fill the auditorium, wishful thinking, we could do that in person and still have a video meeting for more people that wanted to come. So we thought it best to do both. That makes sense, everyone?
Bill,
Yeah, question?
Bill?
Yeah.
Yes,
Roxanne.
I have a question. So the question is, if we're going to have this as a hybrid meeting, when we set this tonight, we need to determine the logistics. I mean, is it going to be at the high school? Is it going to be in the council chambers? You know, how many people? I know as of April 19th, the governor's executive orders expire. So I have this on, based on our discussion that you and I have had, I have it on as a general motion, but I did not state, you know, the logistics, like where it's going to be. You know, are we going to have it at the auditorium? Dave's raising his hand. You know.
Yeah.
Bill, Mr. Hartling has his hand raised. I'm not sure if it's on this topic or not.
Oh.
Yes.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Mr. Hartling. We can help facilitate that. We've been operating hybrid meetings with the Board of Education, and I can certainly facilitate that for you all as the interim tech director too. We can make that happen at the high school auditorium if that's the wish of the council. So don't worry about that. I can work with you, Roxanne, and we can help facilitate that with equipment, etc. So.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Hartling. We appreciate that. And let the minutes reflect that Mr. Hartling has joined us. Somehow I missed him. So my own thought would be the larger the space, the more distancing we could accommodate if we needed to accommodate distancing. So the high school is the normal location. Sounds like the right solution to me. What do the counselors think?
I think that's a good call, Bill.
Okay, thank you. All right, other comments, questions? Did we miss anything on the details, Roxanne?
Nope, I've got it all now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
As does Councilor Solms, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Are we done? We
7.
set the town meeting.
No, I think we did the public hearing. We need to do the town meeting. I think we.
Okay.
I think we took over the legal fees, the legal expenses.
Overspending the legal account?
We did
No,
that.
we did that.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, okay.
We skipped over the budget. We're going to do that last.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I make a motion to set the annual town meeting to be a hybrid model, video conference and in person, regarding the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget on May 17th, 2021 at 7 p.m. and to adjourn to a referendum to be held on May 18th, 2021. There's a typo there, Rox. Between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. In addition, should the referendum fail, the subsequent referenda will be held between the hours of 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 6 of the Town Charter.
Councilor Malone seconds.
Same discussion? Any comments? Ready to vote?
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Counselor Malone votes aye.
And so does Counselor Sons. The motion passes. Thank you very much. And then the last item is budget work. And we won't make any decisions tonight. We have some time before we do that, but I do want to go through the, compare the two spreadsheets that we have and the dollar amounts that the council talked about changing, and compare that with Marcia Hancock's spreadsheet. So if you'll give me a moment, I want to pull up a couple of those. I have them up, I just have to move them around everything else. So Marcia, if you're ready, I thought we would do, what we would do is you have been keeping the official copy of the budget, and we've been keeping our version of what we've talked about, the questions we had, the answers we got. So if I can call out an item and you can find it on your spreadsheet, we can probably go through this pretty quickly. I'm only looking at going through the changes. Does that sound okay?
Will do, yes.
Okay, good. Still trying to move things around so I can see them all side by side. Okay, the first item I had was about the discussion with the registrars. And in my recollection, we had changed the operating expenses line to 0, and we were going to move that to capital. And I think you had a slightly different take on that.
I was just thinking in terms of when they go to buy the booths, we can take $1775 out of general fund or out of the operating budget, and the rest out of capital.
Okay.
Either way is fine. I mean, it's probably cleaner to do the change now. I just didn't do it. They also, I think they said, does anybody remember what they said the total would be for the?
5,200.
Okay.
So you need a little more money.
Yeah. And they don't have a capital line right now. So I mean, in this budget, in this capital plan. So I could add that and then put 5,200 in.
I think that'd be great. Because we keep putting 1776 in this line item, then we don't spend it. I'd just as soon get it to 0 and keep it there in the operating.
Understood, yep.
So, okay, good. Let me find the next one. Still navigating. Next was, and your spreadsheet has a different order than ours, so I apologize. I just jumped down to MIS, repairs and maintenance. And I haven't heard back from Regina, but she was going to look at whether she could reduce that line item. And we can hold that as to come back to later, but I would like to get an answer back from her. I had in my notes reducing it by 550.
I will reducing it by 550.
Yes.
Okay. I will check with her tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Now back to registrars. Elections, we had reduced stipends from 14,000 to 11,000 so that we could move $3,000 to training and set up. Actually, I think that, yeah, there is a line item for training.
Yes, I added a line, training meetings, dues, subscriptions.
Great. Okay. Next one was Zoning Board of Appeals. They had increased their operating expenses from $500 to $1,000, expecting the council was going to cut it to 500, and that's our suggestion. We cut it to 500. Or to put it another way, they didn't really have a reason for the requested increase. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Next item I have is gasoline and oil for the police. You got an increased forecast and then reduced it a little bit. And I think your number is most current. And well, I forget what it was. What's the final?
55,000. Oh, it's line 206. It's, yep. Yes, we had it higher and then we reduced it back to 55,000.
Right. Okay. So I'll change mine. Oops.
And I know that the chief is on, so I'll just say that we have locked in the fuel prices for next year because they're on the upswing. And so Steve Maslin and I kind of danced around it for a couple of weeks, and we decided because one day it had gone down a little bit. So we were waiting to see, give it enough time after the whole Texas disaster to see what it would do. So 55,000 is the final number, and then you'll see Steve's number in Public Works.
Excellent, thank you. And since the chief has been with us all evening, patiently waiting, I'm going to stop and see if there was anything you wanted to address the committee about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really, the one matter that I would like to touch on while we're talking about the budget for next year is now my second budget cycle attempt to add a administrative position to the command staff in the form of a captain, which would require basically 2 promotions and no hiring. And I've, if I could be permitted to share my screen, if that's appropriate.
Sure.
I think, all right, so I can't, Zoom is telling me I can't share it while the other share is up.
Yeah, I stopped sharing, so you should be okay now. Try it again.
There it is.
I can't see what are you looking at the, okay, we're looking at this. Okay, so I've brought this in on Excel in the past 2 sessions because there was no line item to actually address it. So it's basically in draft form. And again, the plan is to really just to add the captain's position and then spread out the duties in the administration between myself, the captain, and the lieutenant. And some of this is directly related to the police accountability bill and the requirements that are going to be placed on us over the next couple of years, especially as it relates to becoming an accredited department. Whatever that ends up looking like in the final. I know there's still discussion in the legislature about CALIA versus post accreditation, and I don't know what that's going to turn into. But in either instance, we're going to have to become an accredited department, which is going to require much more administrative maintenance, I think, of our department policies, as well as the proofs that go along with showing how you comply with your department policies. So if you look at the sheet, the spreadsheet, basically I have highlighted the captain, lieutenant, and public safety employees, because those are the line items that would be impacted by the proposal. The executive officer of the department currently is Lieutenant Ken Kreutz, and his salary is scheduled to go to $95,000 in this coming fiscal year. That would, if we do replace the lieutenant's position and go in between the lieutenant and the chief with an administrative position, the MOU that created or that was associated with the independent police department requires the lieutenant position then to go back to the union. So doing some calculations in regards to the what that salary would look like for the lieutenant, who would then become the patrol commander or the operations commander, that number would be at $91,434. So realistically, that's $3,666 below what is currently budgeted for the lieutenant or for Ken's salary. And it would also then remove one sergeant's position for the sergeant being promoted to lieutenant from the public safety employees line item. So that would be approximately $83,886 would come out of the public safety employees line item. And really the total cost of this, in my estimation, would be approximately $13,000 in the coming fiscal year to actually execute this, because we'd be looking at some kind of a spread between that lieutenant's salary, which would then become contractual at $91,434, and what would then be the captain's salary, which is slated at $95 right now, because that's what Ken will be making as a lieutenant. And I would imagine there'd be some kind of an increase in there, which would spread that from lieutenant by approximately 10%, which tends to be the standard between these ranks. Okay. And that's really what I wanted to discuss. I know it was kind of short notice of me jumping on here today. I wasn't expecting to present to you on this, but I can also just show you the table of organization, if you can see.
I think it's helpful to hear this now. We have another meeting, councilors have another meeting coming up at 6:30. So I was just planning to run through the budget, kind of a summary of what we talked about, but this is really helpful to hear. And I think we could put this on our agenda for the next meeting, because we do need to discuss it.
Thank you, Bill. And with that stated, I'm more than happy to come in more prepared with some other comps if we want to move this forward for the next meeting.
Okay.
Do you want?
So Roxanne, I'll talk with you getting that. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to adjust the structure or the table of organization at all? I want to save that.
I'd rather not, because we're gonna run out of time. Andre's got to go chair, or Andrea and I have to go to attend another meeting in 28 minutes.
Very good. I'll leave it where it is. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate it. Okay, so Marcia, I'm back to the spreadsheet, and next line item was social services, and you had moved some things around, created some new line item for food pantry rental, and I think we were all in sync on that. So I'll keep going. The community health program, I had in my notes that we reduced that by 4,000. And that was returning it to what it was in the years before it went to 14,000. So we can hold that one as something to discuss further, but I had a different number for community health. The reason is we don't receive as much revenue as we pay out for this program. And I think the director was talking about limited number of signups, therefore expecting fewer expenses this coming year than were proposed in the budget. So we'll hold that one for next time. Next one was gas and oil for public works at 3,000, and you have a new number for that. You're muted, Marcia.
33,000.
Good. Thank you. And while we're on public works, I just wanted to mention, I got an email from the public works director. Remember the discussion on Facebook about there are 3 cameras around town that look at road services, and they don't look in people's houses to see what they're doing. They look at the road and they take the temperature. And Public Works made a decision today that despite the state salting all the roads, they chose not to, based on the temperature readings they were getting from the road surface on those 3 cameras. And the cameras are placed on locations that typically see icing and accidents. So they chose not to salt and saved the town $1,000 today by making that decision. That's about what it costs to mobilize the people that would have gone and salted there. So I'll continue on, and I'll forward that email to the rest of the council. I just got it a little while ago. Library, and this is another one we'll need to discuss some more. Library, I went through the director's proposal to meet the minimum part-time wage, and I came up with about $1,000 more than what the mayor approved to cover the increase to minimum wage this year. And we could do that not with a $1 per everyone raise, but we could do it with a percentage raise for everyone this year that would meet the state requirement, keep us a little bit above minimum wage, and also come in pretty close to what the mayor had approved. So I've got $1,000 there. We can come back and discuss that the next meeting as well.
Bill, does that mean 48,806?
Yes, 48,806. It's an increase of 1,000.
Okay.
And I think that was the last one. Yeah, that's the last one I had. I'll open up to the other counselors. I know you have the same spreadsheet, but if there's anything I missed, holler it out.
We're gonna talk about each of these things a little more thoroughly in our next meeting, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct. I just wanted to get synced up with Marcia on her spreadsheet because she's keeping the official record of the adjustments we make.
Okay, so the library wage adjustment, I'd like to see that spelled out with the percentage and then just the the dollar increase. Yep. But also to be clear is what you propose, Bill, doesn't address the request to restore Sunday hours. Is that right?
That is true. But I did talk to Gail, and we talked about. She said that she felt she could actually open on Sundays and meet the minimum wage requirement, and she only needed $689 to do that. And I had come up independently with 1,000. But that would mean cutting back some other hours, other days. Okay. And that was my proposal to her, that she consider that, because I think Sundays are really important. That the kids are home from school. People who work can't go to the library during the week, but Saturday and Sunday, I think it's important. So okay. I would like to see us reopen.
Bill, one quick thing on that.
Yeah.
I believe Gail opted for, at least during the pandemic, she opted to expand Thursday hours in lieu of Sunday hours. So if she were to adjust the Thursday hours back to the normal and then add back the Sunday hours, that plus 689, I think works.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what we talked about. So thank you. And Linda, I
had a question. Can we see the numbers on that whole fax thing? Because I'm still thinking about that. Remember, we discussed the fact that we don't have, we're not using electronic fax. We're using fax machines.
Yeah.
Can we at least have a proposal on how much it would cost to move to that?
Marcia, do you think you could do that with Regina?
Yes,
and there were several departments that impacted.
Right.
We've been working on that since the last meeting, because I think one of the comments that was made involved security, and eFax is very secure and it is HIPAA compliant. So as you know, I have wanted the fax machines out of here since at least last year, if not the year before. And I'm ready to throw mine out the window now, as I come in every day and I have faxes on there for new roofs and Caribbean vacations. And congratulations, I got a $50,000 loan approved, and I'm just done with that.
And you can get your house painted, Roxanne.
I can tell you that down in the annex building, we got rid of our fax machine quite a while ago when they sheetrocked over the wire.
Maybe we should do that over here.
When they renovated our building, they just went right over the fax machine. So we haven't had it since. So we're right ahead of the game.
I disconnected my line. I had a third line in the house. I disconnected it. I'm very happy. I'm not missing a thing. So thank you, Linda. That's a good point. I had actually been doing some side research on that, and I came up with eFax as well as being secure and probably the one to go with. I would like to go over and take a look at the capital if I can find that spreadsheet. I'm trying to remember if I had any comments on it. So what do we have here? Another 20 minutes. Bear with me, please. I'm just looking through it because I highlighted some things, and I think all my questions are going to be for Board of Ed. So maybe that's a separate discussion. I wanted to ask about Juliet Long Solar, the high school gym ceiling renovation, which is not in the approved capital budget, but I wanted to ask about it. The stage and the floor replacement is in the budget. That's good. Yeah, I didn't have any others, unless other counselors had things they wanted to talk about in the capital. I didn't have any changes. I only had questions, and they were all for Board of Ed.
I didn't have questions about capital.
Okay. Okay. Chief, you're still here patiently, and it is 6:15. If you want to spend another 5 minutes, we could do that, or if you want to come back next week, it's your call, or next meeting.
Bill, I'll come back next meeting. I'll just feel more at ease and more prepared.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't want to rush you, so okay.
Thank you.
Bill, you had questions about this is Mr. Hartley.
Oh, Jen, you're still here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Could you tell us about the plans for the Ledyard High School stage and curtains? And specifically, is that something we're going to be able to do this year? Or are we still saving money for it?
No, that's in the we're looking to fund it. Typically when we're funding, by the time it gets approved, it ends up happening in the following summer. But that is a much needed work on the stage, lighting system, and sound system. It's kind of been cobbled together over the last 20 years. We've done some minor pieces, but it's a critical update to get that back modernized. The stage, we literally just kept on putting plywood over it. It needs to be reworked as well. So that's a current need and something I've talked to Mayor Fred about this year, as well as something we want to get in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's really what I was curious about, because I remember we did a critical needs walkthrough a few years ago. It was spongy then, and I'm glad you're putting plywood on it because it worries me. Could you speak to the plan for solar and roof replacement as it stands now?
So the GFS campus and JWL, or the GFS building and JWL building, are due for roofs. There's an element, we added the solar element. So that would be, we'd purchase the system through and apply for the ZREC.
Yep.
And so, the plan was, and I think we've always talked about that, as we did those roofs, we would add the solar component into the project. In addition, the JWL project includes modernization of the HVAC system there. So we would be able to heat, cool, and ventilate that building appropriately going forward. comprehensive, address those two buildings.
That's good to hear. I think based on our limited experience with solar companies, they're making a lot of money and then taking it out of our pockets anyway. I like the fact that we're considering owning the panels ourselves. I think we get more money out of the deal.
Right. So we would go through the ZREC process, bid out the project, and then we, ultimately have someone manage the project for, penny on the kilowatt kind of structure.
Excellent. Okay. And the main gym ceiling renovation, that's not, we didn't approve it this year, and that's something can be done in the future. There's no sense of urgency there, right?
That's down the line. Yeah, yep. That's a down the line project.
Okay.
We do still have some, we're continuing the process of high school room renovations. We will do the last set of bathrooms. That's happening this summer. So we're moving forward pretty solidly with capital needs, and appreciate the ongoing collaboration and support to make it happen.
I'll just note that last set is $157,000, not $250,000. That's great news. So good. Okay. Anything else, counselors? I think we're ready to adjourn. Thank you all very much for the longer meeting than usual. We are adjourned without exception at 6:16 p.m.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.